The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. The parents of Jesus went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up according to custom. And when the feast was ended, as they were returning, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. His parents did not know it, but supposing him to be in the company, they went a day's journey. And they sought him among their kinsfolk and acquaintances. And when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem seeking him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. And when they saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us so? Behold, your father and I have been looking for you anxiously." And he said to them, "How is it that you sought me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?" And they did not understand the saying which he spoke to them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. And his mother kept all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise be to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Lead questions for today. Question number 1. What are some of the ingredients that make for a good Christian family life as shown in today's readings? Question 2. Soon after winning the child, Anna earnestly desired from God, she gave him over permanently to the Lord. 1 Samuel chapter 1. Soon after winning the child. That's like what age? 1.5, 2. She 3? No, in those days it's not 6 months. Soon after winning the child, which she earnestly desired from God. Remember, she was childless and she had become an old woman. Anna gave him over permanently to the Lord, meaning, this is no longer my child. You serve the Lord in Shiloh. And she didn't live in the same town. How does this challenge our sense of Christian detachment? 3. Jesus Christ wants to occupy the central place in Christian marriages and family relationships. That's what Jesus wants. What obstacles do we sometimes put on his way? And how must we deal with such obstacles? Question 4. In what ways have the social media become a major threat to family relationships? How will you protect your own family against such threat? If you agree that the social media, and the mass media generally, but specifically the social media, have become a threat? If you agree with that, in what way has the social media become a threat? Or have all the media that make up the social media become a threat? And how would you protect your family against such threat? Yes, Emmanuel.
Please, Father, permit me to attempt question 1. What are some of the ingredients that make for a good Christian family life as shown in today's readings? But as we read from the second reading, some of these ingredients are patience, love, forbearance.
Love, patience, forbearance. Forbearance, our people here don't like forbearance. Forbearance is the same as long suffering. No? It's not the same. Forbearance is not the same as long suffering. They say they don't like long suffering.
In the family relationship and family life, we see that a lot. And also another ingredient is forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Every day in family life, we have to forgive each other, husband and wife and children.
Okay.
And empathy.
Empathy. What does that mean?
Father, we have to understand with each other, as we live our Christian life from each other's perspective.
Empathy is actually, it's related to forbearance. It's related to forbearance. To suffer with. To suffer with. To put yourself in the position of the other and suffer with. Including suffering with a misbehaving spouse. Do you understand that? Suffering with a misbehaving spouse. That's forbearance. And that requires an amount of empathy. Yes, any more?
And having a common goal.
Common goal.
Working together as one within the family.
Having a common purpose. Having a common purpose is very, very important. If people are working at cross purposes, then they cannot arrive. It is Amos chapter 3, verse 3 that says, do two people go on a journey without first agreeing? Unfortunately, there are many people coming together who have no common purpose. No wonder there will be crisis and conflicts. Give him a round of applause.
Question 2.
Yes.
Challenges our sense of Christian detachment because we're only stewards of what God gives us.
We are only
stewards of what God gives us.
We are only stewards of God, recognizing that we are only... Okay, one challenge is to recognize that you are actually not the owners of your children.
Yes.
You are only stewards of all God's gifts, including the gift of children. Many parents don't recognize that sufficiently. Yes?
And so Hannah recognized this and she submitted Samuel to serve God permanently because she knew that it would not be in vain. And that since God had given her a gift, she returned the gift.
Since God has given her a gift, I hope you know that by that time there was no mobile phone.
No.
So Samuel was not in touch with the mother daily.
Yes.
I hope you know. No internet.
Yes.
No social media. So to take Samuel to Shiloh, to the temple, or to the to a man of God to stay with may mean that's the end of the relationship.
Hannah knew that God will use Samuel to do greater things.
Hannah knew that God will use Samuel to do greater things. Give her a round of applause. Okay. Yes, Gregory.
Okay, question 3. The obstacles that do sometimes put that we sometimes put in our ways are
No, not on our ways, on the way of Christ.
on the way of Christ is unforgiveness.
Unforgiveness,
Yes. Greed.
greed,
Pride.
pride.
Then we have attachment.
Okay, attachment, opposite of what we are talking about.
Yes, sir.
Attachment.
Yes. Because in our family lives, one of the things that cause problem is we want to claim that what we have belongs to us, belongs to I, not all of us.
Not even we.
Yes, it's I, that this is my car. Don't touch my car. At times, that is why we communicate.
And the wife says, this is my salary.
Yes.
My salary is for me.
Yes. And then secondly, like I'm talking about unforgiveness. Some families stay together 2 or 3 years, they don't talk to each other. They cook and eat differently.
Some families live to 2-3 years,
Yes, they don't talk to each other.
not talk to each other,
They don't talk to each other, sir. Father. They
and
sleep
live in the same house.
Yes. We have had that. They sleep
That is hell now. They are living in hell together now. Huh? Is that not hell?
Then this issue of greed also affects the family.
Greed is a cancer. It eats everything. Greed destroys everything on its way. It's not only family, everything.
They have a lack of communication.
Lack of communication.
Yes.
And you have said it now. If they stay together for 2-3 years and don't talk to each other, no communication, isn't it?
Yes. Then how do we now deal with this obstacle?
Yes.
First, we need to forgive each other. Settle whatever difference we have that very particular time.
Forgiveness.
Yes. Then we should also know that whatever we have not even belongs to us, but we are caretakers.
Caretakers,
Yes.
stewards.
Stewards of whatever we have.
Yes.
Then we also have to know that we need to have sacrificial love, not a lip service love. That we should be able to die for individual.
Die.
Yes, Father. Not death die.
Real die.
Death die.
Okay.
It is when we live this way that.
So what you are saying is actually the practice of Christian virtues are the way to overcome these obstacles. Christian virtues. Sacrificial love. Sacrificial love. The same things that were listed by Emmanuel in answer to the first question. Love, patience, forbearance, long-suffering, forgiveness. I've not had mutual respect, right? Mutual respect, courtesy. Those things that Pope Francis mentioned, right? Please, I am sorry. Thank you. Courtesy, that's basic human courtesy. Nothing very special. Basic human courtesy. These are the things that will overcome the obstacles we put on Christ's way. Okay, give him a round of applause. Yes, let's end with Engineer Bassi.
Yeah, Father, then question 4.
Question 4.
In what ways have the social media become a major threat? A major threat to family relationship? Father, sometimes in a sitting room, you have the parents and the children sitting there. And each is busy with his own gadget. Either chatting with other people
Who are not on table.
who are not there, or even looking at things that would not be of value to the family setting in which they are. And it alienates the family. In fact, they can be there seeing each other without actually relating to each other, or even knowing what each other wants or likes or does not like. And how would we protect our family against such threats? I think we have to be able to let children grow up and have meaningful appreciation of life before they go into all these things. Have the principles of life ingrained in them so that when they are going through the social media, they would be able to discern the good and the bad. But also that they should know that family life is very important. Family life is very important, and it is in speaking with each other, relating with each other, that they'll get to know properly how each one feels.
Now, this is a very serious issue, and I think all of us, I'm hoping that we can have a full session to deal with that question, that number 4 question. I'm hoping we can have a full session to deal with it, because today it has reached crisis proportion. There is little or no family life anymore, because people are gathered to eat, that is, if they gather to eat at all. And the average user of the telephone, of the internet today, is addicted. I don't know if you are aware of what is called social media addiction. I was dealing with it in my house yesterday. I have my nieces with me, and we were eating, and somebody was on social media, and I had to say, sorry, no telephone at table. No telephone at table. And how can I protect my family against such threat? It is to make rules. Fathers and mothers need to make rules. I told my nieces that Bill Gates does not give his children internet. Why? Because he knows the damage that it can do. Mark Zuckerberg, his children are not on internet. So people have produced things for us to destroy us, and those who have produced them, they know the danger. Please, when you go home, Google social media addiction. The average person is addicted. If you are one of those that cannot leave your phone for one day without being restless, you are addicted. If you are one of those that checks your phone 100 times a day to see whether there is a new text or a new message, I say you are addicted. And no child of God should be an addict. This is a very serious problem. We are told that today in offices, research has been done that discovered that in offices, whereas the older people, like Engineer Bass's age, when they are sitting down in the office, they put their phone on the side. But that the young people put their phone in front of them so that while they are typing in the computer, they are also seeing when messages come on the phone. Because they cannot take their eyes away from the phone for 5 minutes, 10 minutes anymore. And if you are with a young person, the young person is constantly taking the phone out to check. That is called addiction. We are not yet aware of it in this country, but in several countries, there are centers that have been opened for addiction therapy. Therapy for social media addiction. Centers have been opened with psychiatrists and clinical counselors to help people who have been addicted to social media. We are getting into it big time, and we're not even aware that we have a problem. Do you people understand what I'm talking about? The biggest problem is that we don't even know we have a problem. But most of our children are now seriously addicted. And I tell you, just check. If you cannot go on Facebook, go to your Facebook account and tell yourself, I'm going to check something for 10 minutes and come out. If you find yourself staying there in the next 1 hour, you are addicted. The word is intentionality. If you cannot be intentional about social media, meaning there is something I am going to check, and it will take me about 10 minutes or about 15 minutes, and you go and check that thing and come out. If you have lost control, such control, if you have lost the capacity to go intentionally check something and come out, if the social media, whatever it is, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, if it keeps carrying you around, if it keeps taking you from one block to the other and you are no longer in control, you just see yourself going from one to the other, then I say you are addicted, and no child of God should be addicted. Now, coming to the family, this is destroying the family big time. Husbands and wives are no longer able to communicate. They are communicating with the virtual world, but the real world is neglected. Parents and children are not communicating. They are communicating with the virtual world. The real world is neglected. This is serious. And all the young people that I'm seeing sitting down here, you better take it seriously, because you cannot live a purposeful life when you are an addict. Those who helped to found the internet and the social media, they are coming out to say, yes, we know there are addictive elements too. You read one of the books. There are addictive elements to this thing we created, but we didn't know it will go this far. And they are taking measures for themselves and their children. And my people are here just consuming and getting destroyed. May the Lord save our families. The family is the fundamental cell of society. Humans are social beings. Nobody grows alone. We grow with our fellows. We flourish in relationships. People need people. Everybody needs somebody. The family is the primary place of belonging. It is very important to belong. Without that belonging, we are isolated, we are alienated, and we immediately begin to suffer serious issues. The family plays a central role in human growth and formation. It is the first school. From the day, even before a child is born, the child begins to learn. So it is the first school. It is the first church. It is the first social club. It is the first place where the foundations of human relationships are laid. That is why developmental psychologists today say by the time a child is 4.5, 5 years old, the child has developed all the idiosyncrasies that he will have in life. By the time the child is 5 years old, the character of the child is pretty much set. The parameters of the child's personality are all set, because the child picks all these from the family. And I do say to you here that what we do in church is only panel beating what you, the parents, have already done. The family is the locus of our affection. That is when a child learns to feel. The child learns by touching the mother, by the mother touching the child begins to learn affection. It is in the family where we have our first experience of being held, of being loved, of being listened to, of being nurtured. The family is the structure around which our heart's best wishes entwine. It is the place where faith and morality are built. The family provides the suitable soil for Christian morality, Christian virtue, Christian values to flourish. Yes, modern developmental psychologists show that many of the personality disorders of grown-ups have their roots in family deficiencies. When there are deficiencies in family, then there is often deficiencies in the person unless some serious repair work is done. Many criminals, psychopaths, sociopaths come out of dysfunctional families. We do have Many cases, a few cases of people coming out of such families and being balanced, because with God all things are possible. But in the normal run of events, many criminals, psychopaths, and sociopaths come out of dysfunctional families. So, every word and every deed of a parent is like a fiber, it's like thread woven into the character of the child. Every word, every deed. There are some of these infants that you carry. And as you carry these infants, you think that your mood doesn't affect this infant. Right? You think your mood doesn't affect this infant. You think that your cheerfulness or sadness doesn't affect this child. Not to talk of the words you speak. You speak harsh words, it affects this child terribly. You laugh and you rejoice, it affects this child positively. You hug your wife, you rejoice with your wife and laugh with your wife, it affects this child positively. You scream at your wife or your husband, it affects this child negatively, even though the child doesn't know the content of the words. Do you understand? Every word, every deed of a parent is like a fiber woven into the character of the child. What a father says to his toddler child will be heard by posterity, if you understand that. What a mother sings to the child in the cradle goes all the way to the coffin. It is very frightening when you know. In the last few years, as you know, I have been involved in these issues of people's emotional and psychological development, and it is very frightening the impact that early childhood trauma has on the growing child. It's very frightening. If we knew, if people really knew the amount of damage they can do to their children with their own problems, people will be very careful about bringing any child into the world. So once again, we repeat what we do, repeat on this kind of day. Can we read it together? If children live with criticism, they learn to condemn. If they live with hostility, they learn to fight. If they live with ridicule, they learn to be shy. If they live with shame, they learn to feel guilty. If they live with tolerance, they learn to be patient. If they live with encouragement, they learn to have confidence. If they live with praise, they learn to appreciate. If they live with fairness, they learn what justice is. If they live with security, they learn to trust. If they live with approval, they learn to like themselves. If they live with acceptance and friendship, they learn to find love and God in the world. This appears easy, isn't it? It appears easy, but it is not so easy. The environment within which the child lives, and I am talking about a child in the womb. After 3 months, the circumstances of the child in the womb affects the kind of person the person becomes. So we're not talking about a child that is 10 years or 15 years old. We are talking of even the child in the womb. When a woman suffers major trauma during pregnancy, unless we know that with God all things are possible, by the grace of God, anything can be healed. But it's a serious issue when the child begins to grow up. When family life is wholesome, a peaceful society results. Because you see, all this kind of problems that we create in families, we then unleash them onto society. When family life is wholesome, a peaceful society results. But when family life is diseased, as indeed many of our families are diseased, the entire society suffers. You know, when you think about the problems we have, including the problem of corruption, you see, a lot of corrupt acts are a camouflage for something missing inside. Do you know that? People want to acquire and acquire and acquire. People are looking for power by any means and by all means. They are looking for money by any means and by all means, including amounts of money they could never spend, their children could never spend in life. Do you think they are well? These are all a camouflage for something missing deep down. The point we are making here is how to raise children to be wholesome so that they won't have such things missing in their lives. That vacuum will not be there deep in their life, for which they now want to gather power and gather money and become celebrities. Those who have it deep inside, they say empty barrels make the loudest noise. We are having too many empty barrels around. Those who are full inside, they don't need much outside. Those who are empty inside are the ones that gather and gather and gather. Because if you think you are nothing inside, then you want to prove to the world that you are something by gathering many titles, gathering many build houses, gathering, being proclaimed as the beauty queen, being proclaimed as the best in this and best in this. You really don't need all that to live purposeful life. But those who are empty inside think they need all that. In this way, therefore, the systematic destruction of family life and family values in our day has serious consequences. I told you, you were here when, is it last year, when this psychologist came from Kenya, you remember? Lincoln Dogoni is his name. And we were talking about some politician in this country that has 10 cars. You remember? 10 exotic cars. And he said, no. It is not cars that he has. I said, what? He said it is toys that he has. It's not cars. I said, what do you mean? They are cars. They are exotic cars. He said, no, you are mistaken. It is not cars. He missed toys as a child. And every time he sees a fine car, that childhood deprivation comes back and he's looking for one other toy to buy. So he said, please don't deprive your children of toys so that they may not steal Nigeria dry when they grow up. The church recognizes that the family is of great importance. This is why on the very first Sunday after Christmas, we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family with a challenge to model our families after the Holy Family. The Christian family should be a school of love. It should be an enabling environment, one, for the raising of wholesome human beings with fully integrated personalities, for the introduction of children to Christian religion and spirituality. It is in the home that children should be introduced to Christian religion and spirituality. I have said here that the idea of a man who has been going to church for 40 years, his wife who has been going to church for 40 years, needing the church to teach the children basic prayers and doctrine, I say it's a terrible thing. We have had this practice, and I am beginning to question this practice. Emmanuel, why would an adult who has gone to church for 40 years in his life, he is 45 years old, his wife is 43 years old, and they cannot teach our Father, glory be to the Father, I believe in God, they cannot teach act of faith, act of hope, and so they cannot teach it to their children. What kind of Christian are you if you pray that you cannot teach basic prayers to your children? What kind of Christian are you? If you count matters of faith to be important to you and you cannot pass that on to your children, what kind of Christian are you? So our practice of sending tiny little children to go to church to learn catechism, we need to revisit it. We need to revisit it because it should be the work of who? The parents. The parents are the ones that should pass on the basic knowledge of their faith to their children. If they cannot do that, then something is wrong. I don't know if you can see it with me. Something is seriously wrong if they cannot do that. If they do not value their faith enough as to read the basic prayers and learn it themselves and pass it on to their children, they are relying on some official in the church to do that. And if you cannot see it with me, then me and you are not on the same journey. We are having serious issues, crisis of values, crisis of faith today because parents have not done their work at the most critical time that they should do their work. I keep saying, by the time a child is 5 years old, that child has developed the brain 80%. The 80% of the brain is developed, and the child has gathered so much. And if it is garbage you put on the child, then it is garbage that we will have from the child. Before the child is strong enough, old enough to go to school, the child should have learned a lot about what relationship with God means. We do say that age 7 is the age of reason. By age 7, many of your children, they are able to say no when you say go there, isn't it? If they are able to say no, then that means they have developed a mind of their own. Where were you when they were developing their mind, that mind of their own? What are you feeding into the child during the period by which they were developing the mind of their own? We need to look into our practice of feeding the children with material food, of sending the children to some school, and then leaving the faith unattended to. I have said it here several times that any fool can get pregnant and any idiot can impregnate somebody, but not any fool or idiot can be a parent. It takes more to be a parent. And we need to begin to critique these things now if we are not to destroy tomorrow before today is finished. The home is the place to introduce children to Christian religion and spirituality. The home is the place for the cultivation of the values and virtues of the kingdom. The home is the place for the growth in Christian holiness. The scripture readings of today deal with the family of Jesus to show us, one, that the one whose birth we have just marked belonged to a family. He did not just emerge from outer space. Two, that the family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph is our model of Christian family life. The family of Jesus is presented to us as an ordinary family with an extraordinary commitment to the will of God. They were an ordinary family. Whom do we call a saint? A saint is an ordinary person who does extraordinary things. So a Christian family will be an ordinary couple that are living the Christian life in an extraordinary manner. They were poor. They faced many challenges. They experienced difficulties and disappointments and contradictions and tragedies and pains. They were refugees and they were IDPs. Mary stored all these things in her heart. Both she and Joseph had to constantly struggle to understand God's will for them. They nevertheless lived holy lives because the love of God occupied the center of their individual lives. And the fear of God was the basis of their family life. Today's responsorial psalm emphasizes that where there is wholesome respect for God's will, human relationships stand a better chance of being ordered and harmonious. Just like the second reading too. Where there is wholesome respect for God's will, then family life, harmonious family life stand a better chance of surviving. Those who fear the Lord will not be tempted to take God's place. They will be humble. They will not be proud and boastful. Those who fear the Lord are freed to live their lives, to love their neighbor, and they make it easy for their neighbor to love them in return. The second reading from Colossians provides the guidelines and ethical code for Christian family life. It emphasizes that we are God's chosen race. We are his saints. He loves us. It goes ahead to say, we should therefore be clothed in sincere compassion, kindness, and humility, gentleness, and patience. We should bear with one another. That's forbearance that we mentioned. Forgive each other as the Lord has forgiven us. We should put on love, which means a lot. Paul admonishes us to let the message of Christ in all its richness find a home in us. We should teach each other, advise each other in all wisdom, sing psalms and songs with grateful hearts, never say or do anything except in the Lord. You see, this is what I said when we did the session on marriage, the fundamental equality of husband and wife in marriage. When we did the other session on against divorce, we talked about submit to one another in the Lord. If people are submitted to the Lord, then their relationships will be godly. If their relationships are not godly, it means they have not submitted to the Lord. It is after surrendering to the Lord that you now have wife give way to husband. Husband, love your wife. How can you love your wife when you don't even know the organ of love? Children, be obedient to your parents. Parents, never drive your children to resentment. All this flow from be submissive to one another in Christ. The real meaning of matrimony. The real meaning of matrimony is that husband and wife are united in Christ and surrendered to Christ. That's the real meaning. Husband and wife are united in surrendering to Christ. Somebody mentioned unity in purpose. To have a goal, to have a common goal. And that common goal should be linked to surrendering to Christ. If our goal is heaven, and we are united in understanding that our goal is heaven, then how do we journey together to that heaven, which is our goal? The presence of Christ in a marriage and in family is the presence of love. The Holy Family challenges us to let our families be formed and transformed, be motivated and inspired through contact with Jesus Christ. Let our families be what? Formed and transformed, motivated and inspired through contact with Jesus. Our daily contact with Jesus, our daily presence before the Lord should form, transform, motivate, and inspire families, so that they may be patient with the impatient and be understanding with the quarrelsome. This is where forbearance comes in. Emmanuel. This is where forbearance. To be patient with the... If you are only patient with the patient, what did Jesus say? Even pagans do that. To be patient with the impatient and understanding with the quarrelsome. Because if you are only understanding with the person who is understanding for you, Jesus says, what advantage do you have over pagans? This is what forbearance is all about. This is the link between forbearance and long-suffering, the virtue of long-suffering. Because if you are patient with the impatient, what often happens is that the impatient will take you for granted, isn't it? And be even more impatient. So the virtuous person often looks like somebody who is cheated. If you are understanding with the quarrelsome is likely to be even more quarrelsome. But at the end of the day, we know that truth conquers falsehood. Virtue will overcome vice. So understanding will eventually conquer quarrelsomeness. In Jesus' name. Understanding will ultimately conquer quarrelsomeness. Wholesome Christian family is therefore made of the following ingredients. Can we read them? 1, faith and trust in God. 2, 3, prayers, sacraments, study, reflection. 4, the practice of sacraments, the sacrament of baptism. We have all kinds. We have too many challenges. We are still having problem whereby people give birth to children, and we are Catholics who believe in baptizing children as soon as they are born. People give birth to children, and they say in our tradition it is after 3 months. What are they doing in those 3 months? I don't know whether they are going to the shrine. What are they doing in those 3 months? I don't understand. In fact, it's so bad that Father Dominic told me that somebody brought the child here after 1 week, and another person who was here was scolding the person why she should leave her home so quickly to come and baptize baby. Here. And when Father Dominic heard it, Father Dominic now had to tell that person that, get behind me, Satan. Don't bring that kind of nonsense to this place. Meaning, the woman felt she is strong enough to go and baptize her baby after 8 days, after 9 days, and somebody is discouraging her to go and wait for 3 months. You see how strong our pre-Christian traditions are? What are they doing at home for 3 months, if not paganism? What is it they are doing? So, the sacrament of baptism. Then prepare, as I'm saying, prepare your children for the sacrament, First Holy Communion. Prepare your children. From the day after the baptism of the child, start preparing your child. Some of you on social media, some of you see 2-year-old children, 3-year-old children who are able to recite passages of the Bible, right? So you don't need to be 7, 8, 9 before you can recite the commandments, before you can recite the prayers. You don't need to be. Children are smart these days and are able to do incredible things at a young age. So why, when it comes to your faith, when it comes to church, you have to wait until they are 6, 7, 8 before you start before they go and learn in school or in church? What are they doing at home in the first year? I mean, I see children, I see 2-year-old children who are already minstrels on the piano, right? Fantastic. I see 3, 4-year-old children who are playing violin like experts. So why can't they learn catechism during those ages? What is stopping them? What is stopping them is the parents who are not taking that seriously. So, sacraments, the practice of sacrament, they should learn at that very early age. They should learn all that they require for First Holy Communion, all they require for confirmation. They should learn how to go to confession and what are the things that amount to sins for which they should go to confession. They should be taught and shown by parents at very young age. They should be taught the value of the Eucharist and regular participation in the Eucharist and what they miss if they miss the Eucharist. And sacrificial love is an ingredient of the family, of Christian family. Sacrificial love. You can't run away from it. Fidelity, forgiveness, mercy and compassion, patience and kindness, mutual respect and courtesy. Please, thank you, I am sorry, as Pope Francis has popularized. Then listening, communication skills. These are among the ingredients of the Christian family. Parents should set an example in sacrificial love, in selfless giving and caring, in forgiveness and compassion. The love parents show one another is the best gift they can give to their children. Can we say that together? Not expensive toys. Not holiday in exotic locations. Not even expensive schools. You see, because if your child doesn't have solid foundation in virtue, You can put the child in the best school in the world, and your child can turn out to be a problem. Don't we see that? I mean, I see parents competing to put their children in, it's a status symbol to have your child in the most expensive schools around. And while they are doing that, they are doing nothing related to the spiritual upbringing of the child. They are not even trying to find out the environment where the child is going to school. What is going to do 6 years there? What is the possibility of developing the faith? No, it's not important. Just sometimes I really feel that some of these efforts are not for the sake of the child. They are for the sake of the parent. The parent wants to bear a name. The parent has an ego and wants to fulfill the ego. It's not so much because of the child. So parents spend so much, look for money, steal money to put children in very expensive schools, but those children, they don't have time to sit down with those children. So it's not for the sake of, if it is for the sake of the child, you will know that the first thing you are supposed to do with your child is to make time. Today, parents put themselves under such pressure. Most Nigerians are living beyond their means. It's a problem. Or don't you think it's a problem? You are a civil servant. You are earning 100,000 naira. And you put your child in a school that is 150,000 naira. And you have 5 of those children. How do you make it? So you are constantly under pressure. Constantly under pressure. And you are so much under pressure that you cannot even smile to that child for whom, on account of whom you have put yourself under so much pressure. You can't smile to the child. You come back home, the child say, Daddy, say, I beg, get away. Because you are too busy looking for money to train this child. Well, you lose the child because you don't have time for the child. I can see, I am in this society, and I can see that the average Nigerian is living beyond his means. Rather than see what we all can do to develop our public schools. No, everybody, it's now a status symbol to have children in Chester Hope International School, Stenton, Cambridge Curriculum School, Parkfield, Parkshire, Northbury Primary School. The more foreign the name, and like I do say, then if they know their way, they can look for one white lady to be the headmistress. Then you can charge 400,000 per whatever, because they say then it can be advertised white principal. Yeah. Inferiority complex, nothing but inferiority complex, but that's it. And then people struggle to look for money to put their children in those places. May God save us. How does today's reflection challenge me as a father, as a mother, as a child, as a family member? Now, the Christian family is not just immediate blood relatives. Is it only our immediate blood relatives? The Christian family refers to all the children of God who have some relationship with the divine. The Christian family is a universal brotherhood and sisterhood. All who are connected to God in Christ are mystically connected to one another. We call it the body of Christ, the Christian family. Jesus says that those who do the will of the Father in heaven are mother, brother, and sister. This calls us to a high degree of love and unity as the body of Christ. We must ask God to remove all that divide us. Heavenly Father, we thank you, we praise you, we glorify your holy name for your many blessings. Thank you for today. Thank you for the example of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, the Holy Family. Thank you that we have a model of a family founded on the fear of the Lord, founded on mutual respect, founded on love, founded on forbearance, on long suffering, on forgiveness. Lord, these ingredients that make for good, wholesome Christian family, grant us the grace to nurture them. We know, Lord, that we cannot have Christian families only in name, because your word says, by their fruits you shall know them. The fruits we are seeing all over the place today are not fruits of the kind of thing we see with the Holy Family. As we celebrate this feast today, help us to cultivate the ingredients for Christian family. Help us, our families, our Christian mothers and fathers and children, to cultivate love and forgiveness and patience and forbearance and mutual forgiveness. Lord, we pray particularly for our troubled families, families in crisis, marriages in crisis. With you, we know all things are possible. Transform the circumstances of these marriages and of these families unto good, to the glory of your name, through Christ our Lord.